Hi folks, I said in a previous video I think that we were going to try a comparison between the same sensors using ANT Plus and using Bluetooth. So what I've done here is I've set up the bike, or I've turned Bluetooth off. You should be able to see that, I hope. Hopefully lighting is better down in the basement. It's another terrible weather day outside here in New England, or at least where I live in New England, so unfortunately we're stuck in the basement again, but I think I've improved the lighting a little bit. I'm not sure how the sound's going to come out, but the lighting should be better. So here we are. I've rearranged these on this page so that they're a little easier to see, but here you can see this right now. Here's the weird part. Already I'm trying not to pedal to keep the noise low, but it's lost contact with the stages crank. Now it's connected again. But as I've been sitting here kind of watching this and setting up to record, it's been doing this. So I'm wondering if this is the same thing that's happening on the bike. See, there it goes again. It seems like it's lost it. So it's got the Garmin sensor, it's got the ticker heart rate sensor, but it keeps losing the stages crank. And I can't really set up the video in such a way that you can see the Garmin, but the Garmin is also on the bike. And behind the camera, Ruvi is actually set up. So I'm going to try this with 3 different things, recording all at once. I'm not sure. The Ruvi on my computer is only set up for ANT. I don't believe I can connect using Bluetooth because of the way, because of my laptop, basically. So I have an ANT Plus USB stick that goes in the side of the laptop or computer to make these connections. So yeah, see, the stages is still periodically searching and then connecting, and I don't understand. I guess that could still be a problem just with the communication between the stages. I know they've reported this, but anyway, so we're already 2 minutes in. We haven't really done anything here. So what I'm going to do is I may pause here briefly and get this going, because I need to try to click 3 buttons all at once. So what I'm planning on doing is just riding easy for 5 minutes on Bluetooth, or I'm sorry, on ANT Plus. Then I'm going to turn off ANT Plus, turn on Bluetooth, and ride for 5 minutes. And then probably the end of the video will be a comparison between at least the Garmin and the Karoo, and maybe the Garmin, the Karoo, and the file from Ruvi. So let's see. I don't think I can do this successfully while recording, so hopefully the video is more stable. Anyway, we'll get going. If I can hit the record button while riding, I'll do that. It may not be very interesting because I can really only set up the camera in a way that allows you to see one of the devices at a time. Alright folks, so we are definitely professionals around this place. I looked down about 4 minutes into that 5-minute test and realized that the Garmin still had Bluetooth on. So I'm going to try this again, doing it correctly this time, where Bluetooth is turned off on both devices. What's interesting here is, hopefully you can see this, when I go into there and I just want to check Bluetooth settings, I'm not actually activating Bluetooth, it turns Bluetooth on, and you have to turn it back off again, which seems weird, where it's actually giving you sorry, this is the previous ride, so we're going to skip the upload for now. Actually, Wi-Fi is off anyways, so it's not going to connect to anything. So Wi-Fi is off, and this is sort of the battery save mode that I've put it into when it's just sitting on a nightstand or a dresser or my desk and not being plugged in. So I turn location off, I turn Wi-Fi off because there's no reason it needs to talk to the Wi-Fi network. And so that's how I leave it. And battery life is really very good in that mode. You just kind of turn the screen off. You don't have to actually power the unit down, and it uses, I would say, between 5 and 10% in a day. Probably less than 5% in a day. So I'm going to try this again. I probably won't cut in here, but and we'll probably just compare the proper recording. So this is the summary at the end of the proper ANT Plus test, making sure that Bluetooth was turned off on both devices. Slightly more than 5 minutes, but what I tried to do is ramp up from 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100 cadence for each minute. I'm not sure how successful I was at that. It seemed pretty close, and I was going to report that the Karoo was fine that whole 5 minutes, and then in the last 5 seconds it lost track of the power meter again. So, other than the known issue of the stages meter and them apparently having communication issues with it, it seemed okay, but not. I don't know why it's dropping the connection. This information is weird again. I don't understand. The actual max speed is exactly the same as what the Garmin is showing, and I'll show this later, I guess, but the average speed shows on the Garmin at 15.95, and obviously it's 11.5 here. So I never stop pedaling for 5 minutes. The distance is also off. This says 1 mile. The Garmin says 1.3 miles. So, and I'm almost positive that I have my wheel circumference set correctly. So I really don't understand this. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip the upload of this for now. You're going to hear the Garmin beeping probably as I try to go back in here, and well, I'll do this off camera. I'll set up the Garmin and the Karoo for Bluetooth, and maybe I will even try unplugging the ant stick from Ruvi. If it can't sense anything, then I'm just not gonna. I just won't compare Ruvi, and I just won't ride that. So let's see what happens. Hi folks, so this is so first of all, apologies because the video from this point out may get a little disjointed because I decided to do the Golden Cheetah summaries after each 5-minute test. So when you see the next kind of on-bike video, it may be a little confusing because of the way I recorded those on-bike videos all together, and now I'm recording these a little later in the day. Anyways, it seemed to make more sense so that we weren't getting kind of out of sequence to kind of put these in between. So here we go. And because these are so short, there's really not a lot of information in here, but interesting here, well, not interesting. Time moving is because I have to just kind of flail around pushing all the buttons and getting it to stop. The button on the Karoo requires quite a bit of force. So in this screen, the Karoo is again the purple, the Garmin is again the blue, and what Ruvi recorded is in yellow. So generally things are okay until we get down sort of, I guess, to this metrics section where it's talking about power, and you can see this X power again. If you haven't watched other videos, this is normalized. This is their version of normalized power. So the Garmin and Ruvi are identical, but this is off, and you'll see why in a second. These averages, again, all over the place. Not exactly sure why. Average power is way off. Heart rate at least is good. Speed, the max speed is close, although Ruvi had a real high value there. I don't understand why. Max power looks like it's it's close enough, or certainly very close. So all these maximums seem to look okay. Power zones and heart rate zones are meaningless in a 5-minute ride. But what you'll see here, and what you just saw in the video, is I guess the explanation for why the power is so off. You saw it while I was setting it up, and you also saw it briefly. Well, maybe you didn't because I may have trimmed out that video. But I made a mistake in recording, and I had Bluetooth on the Garmin, so I had to do the first 5-minute test twice. But this is clearly the problem with the average power. The power is all over the place, and what was happening with the Karoo on Ant Plus was that it was just dropping out. What you're seeing the yellow, and you're not really seeing the Garmin blue except for down here because those were so close. I can sort of zoom in here a little bit, and you can see up here like just a very slight variation up there in the power, and this just shortens the duration, or the kind of the snapshot of the ride. interestingly, Ruvy's reporting a much higher speed, so I guess this is sort of good news that the Garmin and the Karoo are together, and I believe that's because I have the wheel circumference set correctly. And then cadence again here, it's not quite as dramatic as the power drop off, but the cadence is dropping on a regular basis out of the Karoo. The yellow line extending here on the Ruvy ride is just because it took me that much longer. The Ruvy didn't stop the ride because the back, basically the rear wheel was still spinning. I don't really think there's anything going to be all that interesting here. This graph is obviously going to be all screwed up because the Karoo was dropping power. I don't. This chart really doesn't really help us all that much, and none of these really do. This summary here, showing the issue with the power, is really the interesting part. So what I'm going to do is you're probably going to go back to the on bike stuff, and then I will do another one of these, hopefully fairly briefly, for the 5 minutes that we did, or that I did on Bluetooth. Okay, so I guess this is going to be interesting, I guess, because I turned Bluetooth back on. There doesn't appear to be, and I'm not finding it any way to turn off Ant Plus on the Garmin, which I guess sort of makes sense. A lot of the things that they sell, so right now you can sort of see, or you should be able to see that the stages is now connected by Bluetooth, the ticker is connected by Bluetooth, but the speed sensor is now gone. So the Garmin speed sensor is only showing up as an Ant Plus device, and if I click add here and kind of spin up the wheel, I've done this already off camera, and it doesn't show up. So I'm not sure this is a fair comparison, but I guess what I'm going to do is run the Garmin anyways, and run the. I'm not going to run Ruvy because that's also recording only by Ant Plus. So Bluetooth is back on the Garmin. I don't know if that actually is going to make any difference, because I believe all these sensors are going to prepare or prefer Ant Plus, I think. But just for sake of comparison, I guess we are going to get power and cadence, which is really more of the concern that I've had with previous rides, where the cadence is dropping out. So I'm going to do this 5 minutes anyways, with just Bluetooth on the Karoo, and we'll look at it later and see what the results are. Okay, so here's the last summary for now, folks. This is the Bluetooth only ride, or ride 5 minutes. So most of these numbers, there's going to be no speed on the Karoo because apparently my Garmin speed sensor is Ant Plus only. So some of these things, so normalized power is exactly the same between what the Garmin is displaying and what the Karoo is displaying. Average power is within 1 watt. Max power is off by 10. The Garmin is 10 high. The TSS is actually 5.3, and the intensity factor is 0.8. So I'd actually like it if the Karoo would give a few more decimal places, because and not that it's a huge deal for me, but it's just a display difference. So this is just rounding to 8. If this had gone to 8.5, the Garmin is reporting 8.34. If the Garmin had gone to 8.5, this would have just showed as 9. So, and the Garmin would have showed 8.5, whatever. The Garmin displays 3 decimal places. The Karoo only displays 1. So there can be a big difference there, between 0.81 and 0.84, whatever. It's not a huge deal, but either that or display it as a percentage instead of, if they're limited in space, display it as a percentage instead of displaying it just as a single decimal place. Heart rate. We're probably going to go over this all again when I do so probably what I'm going to do is, turn or set this up so that Ant Plus and Bluetooth are both on. But what I'm going to do, so the stages power meter appeared much more stable in Bluetooth mode, and I thought that was opposite of what they had said. But so what I'm going to do is actually get rid of Can I get rid of that? Alright, just by way of correction, folks, so you tap on these and you disable them. So that's the way we do that. It doesn't it does show as disabled here, so I'm going to disable the heart rate monitor and the stages left crank. So now what we have is the stages reporting on Bluetooth, the heart rate monitor reporting on Bluetooth, and the speed sensor reporting on ANT+, and both are turned on. So we're going to do a 40 to 45 minute ride, somewhere in that neighborhood. What I will do is, and this is it, if this is all you wanted to see, great. If you want to stay on and watch for the detailed kind of review in Golden Cheetah, hang in there. Thanks. Alright folks, take two. I had this all recorded and Golden Cheetah crashed on me, so we're going to do this again. Maybe a little more quickly this time. So this is the Bluetooth only ride. The Bluetooth only on the Karoo. The Garmin was still using ANT+ because I needed some way to compare it, and you actually, as I indicated in the video, I couldn't find a way to actually turn off ANT+ on the Garmin. So, with the exception of obviously distance is going to be 0 because there's no speed sensor, so it has no way to determine this. So, normalized power within 1 watt, heart rate within 1 beat per minute, average power within 1 watt, max power off by 10 for some reason, average heart rate's good, power zones and heart rate zones don't really mean anything, so here's the good news here. So this is now the chart. You saw the last chart with the ANT+ ride where it was dropping on a regular basis. These basically match each other almost exactly. I mean, I could drill down and you know, we could nitpick one or the other, but it's not clear to me which one would be wrong. One little blip here, about the 3-minute mark, 3 minutes 10 seconds, where it just lost track of cadence for a second. Not really sure what that would be. Don't remember seeing it on either device when I was in. That's the Karoo in purple. So not really sure what that would be. Power here is going to be good. These are the power charts. It's not really telling us much of anything. I guess I should have looked here on the other video, but this is where I was noticing strange things. Well, that's odd. I don't know if that's not the blip. I don't know why it would be suddenly reporting in the decimal places, and I'm not actually sure which device that is, because I don't know if there's a way to choose those in this edit screen. But on previous rides, I would notice that power was, you know, consistent from 1 second to the next, but then cadence would be 0. And I'm not actually seeing it here. You can see how I kind of ramped up. Here's power in the mid-80s, then I tried to go into the mid-90s, and then in this section I tried to get up around 110. So I was fairly consistent there, and that all looks actually very good. There are no zeros in there. So I guess that's it for this section. I'm going to probably jump. I can't remember if I have an on-bike video for the introduction of the trainer ride. I don't think I do, so probably what I'm going to do is stop this, put a little stitch in here, and we'll go right into the 40-minute trainer ride. Okay, so we're almost done, folks. I promise. So this is the 40-minute approximately trainer ride that I just did, or I did. Again, Karoo is in purple, Garmin is in blue, Ruvi is in yellow, within 13 seconds here, and that's again a function of with the wheel spin, Ruvi doesn't stop recording until, actually it's short, so Ruvi must have stopped, and then I got to the point where I paused both the Garmin and the Karoo. And the summary of this, if you want to just skip ahead, is that everything looks good. So normalized power within 1 watt. Let's see, what else have we got here? Speed Still weird. I'm not sure. And this is actually better news for the Karoo and the Garmin because they were within 0.2 of a mile an hour. Or actually, it's kph. I don't know why it switched to kph suddenly. For some reason, Ruvi was high here. Power here, average power within 1 watt. Heart rate actually identical. Cadence within 1, although it must be rounding to 0 because of decimal places, so that's interesting. Maximums, the heart rate is exact. Again, Garmin is about 10 high on the power, which is interesting. Ruvi got the same thing. Don't have an explanation for that. Maximum cadence is within 2. That's totally normal. These all look good. The 27 seconds difference there, I think it's the difference of just the time of the ride. So these are all within just a few seconds of each other. This is where it gets better. Power, it's a little confusing and probably almost migraine inducing here with these colors, but you can see because you can't actually, or it's the kind of yellow is kind of taking over here. The only place you see little bitty blips of thing, occasionally there's a spike, and it's not just the Karoo. There's a Garmin spike here. There's another Garmin spike there. There's a Karoo spike there and there. So that's good. This is heart rate, which obviously it's all recording the same device, so that should be normal. For whatever reason, the Karoo is, or I'm sorry, not the Karoo, the Ruvi is just high here, and it's high consistently, so you can't actually see the difference between the Karoo and the Garmin here, so that's good news. I think the Garmin is actually over the top of the Karoo. There's clearly, the line is there. Even better news for cadence, where I was having the zeroing problems quite frequently. There's a little spike here, but Ruvi also had a spike, I think, there, and there's another little spike there, but it's definitely not the same frequency of purple spikes that we were getting on other rides. Not really going to go, I don't really think it's necessary to go through these other things. I mean, I guess I should just, for completeness, these actually all look really good because there's just very, very minor variations in here. Speed's going to be all screwed up because the Ruvi is high for some reason. Cadence, again, looks very good. And then we'll go, I've already been through this, and I'm not going to scroll through this because it's basically because I couldn't find any. There were a handful of zeros in here under cadence, and I'm not entirely sure those weren't just me kind of like adjusting my position on the saddle, putting a foot straight down and then continuing to pedal. So plus it doesn't, I don't know how, I'm sure I could do it, I don't know how to determine which specific fit file this is actually showing me, whether this is some sort of average or it's one of the fit files in particular. It doesn't seem to give you the ability to do that. So I could look at and I will look at the Karoo ride specifically, not under comparison here. I don't want to click this because I'm afraid it's going to crash, but I will look at that, and if there's anything to add, I will add it. Otherwise, I guess that's good news. So the bottom line for me with the Stages power meter is that I'm going to run the Stages on Bluetooth. I'm going to probably run the heart rate monitor on Bluetooth, and I'm going to run my Garmin speed sensor, my hub mount speed sensor on Ant Plus, because that's the only thing that it can record on. And I'm going to turn off, or as you saw me do, I'm going to turn off the Ant Plus versions of the Stages and the heart rate monitor, so that it's only getting one channel worth of data. Hopefully that maybe that's helpful to somebody if they have the same kind of meter, or if they're having similar issues, they can make sure that they're only broadcasting or receiving one particular frequency, and if they can determine which one is the best for basically their sensors. So again, longer than I intended. I don't know how to get through these kind of detailed analyses any faster than this, but if you've gotten this far, thanks for watching.